Welcome to Mastering the Interview with Austin. That's me. And today, the podcast is just going to be where I go online and I take a lot of questions about things in or around job hunting, interviewing, whatever it might be. And I want to kind of shed some light on them, give some insight on them, answer some questions that, I kind of find on Quora that people usually have. So I got 10 questions today that I just kind of want to take and break down and really just kind of give a different perspective on and kind of give some life experience on. So let's get right into it. Question 1. What's the best and quickest way to find a job? So I know a lot of times out there, people like to think that you should just be able to get a job, no problem, and find, the first thing that kind of you see posted on the internet. But in terms of finding the best and quickest way to find a job, if it's something that you're looking for that's kind of more corporate America, and you are trying to, get that entry-level position at whatever company that might be, I honestly truly believe that LinkedIn and Indeed are probably the two best platforms to go on and really make your profile and really get your resume locked down. So the best and quickest way for me, to find a job as prospects are applying and things like that, the first step is just really locking down and nailing that resume and nailing your cover letter. Like your resume, if you have come right out of college or you come out of high school and you're trying to get that entry-level position or whatever it might be, you really need to tailor your resume kind of to what you and who you are, right? Like what have you done in high school, outside of just academics and curriculum that really make you stand out? What makes you unique? You have to also put that in your cover letter. I think a lot of the times too that people are a little lazy when it comes to applying for jobs and they're not really reading the job description. I think the best and quickest way to find a job is to look at that job description, understand the language of what they're asking. Does that meet any requirements that you have actually lived, right? And if you have that, you need to actually kind of add those things into your resume, right? Do not copy it word for word. Don't do it verbatim. But if those things align, you want to make sure that your interest that you have on your resume also aligns with what that job description is. You'll be more likely to be matched, right? A lot of it's an algorithm too. So something like LinkedIn jobs and Indeed jobs and wherever else, it's technology based, so it's going to pick up a lot of the words that you have on your resume to try and actually match you. Most of the time, and a lot of the time, there's not really a person that actually reviews a resume for the first time. It goes through, a kind of a bucket system to where when that person or the HR rep or recruiter or whoever it might be, when they're looking at kind of all the applications that they're getting, sometimes it actually shows them like this candidate is an X% match or this candidate is a, better match and a better fit and whatever it might be. And they're able to take that and then reach out farther. So if you have no language or any copy or anything that kind of matches any of that job description, you might not even, you lost before you even started. So to answer the question, I think the best and quickest way to actually find a job is to really tailor your resume to the job that you're really applying for. Also, build out your profiles, right? So LinkedIn, that's obviously an absolute huge win, right? You have the opportunity to really brand yourself and make your profile and make it seen and make it known. Have an executive summary. Talk about things that you have accomplished, not just the kind of basic job duties, but what have you actually done? What have you contributed to the world or the company or, outside of your high school or college? Or, if you've actually, worked in corporate America or whatever it is, or you're trying to get that next move or move out of your current situation, whatever it might be, you should have in your resume things that you have done that really enhance that company. What statistics have you, increased, or revenue that you've made for the company, or whatever it might be. Those are the major highlights that you kind of need to put into your resume and tailor around so that you are really honestly promoting yourself to the best possible way that you can. So the best and quickest way to find a job, it all starts really with the resume, I think. Really tailoring it and building out your social profile, because that's going to be people's first impression of you when they see you, because they're not actually seeing you at all. They're not even talking to you. What they're doing is they're looking at you and looking at your profile and getting an understanding of what you've done in the past and present to make an ultimate decision on whether or not they actually want to go with you. So best and quickest way to find a job: profile, resume. All right, question number 2. What were the best things you learned on your first job? Wow. So my first job, my parents had actually, the moment I turned of age, my parents walked me right to Walgreens and walked me right to right to the cashier at the photo counter and said, "This young man needs a job." And then they walked away, and I had no choice but to, figure it out on my own. And I think that's kind of one of the first and best lessons that my family had ever given me, was that, nothing in this world is just given. A lot of it has to be earned. And so, my first job, when I was in high school, I had to, I interviewed on my own. My parents didn't give me any coaching or anything like that. I had to figure it out for myself. And I think it was probably one of the best experiences ever for me, because I worked at Walgreens, in my, local town, and I did everything, from cashier to bringing in the truck to cleaning the coolers to the photo department to, you name it. I did it. And I think one of the best things that I learned on my first job was patience. I think patience is probably the best thing that anyone can have when they first start off. And the reason why I say that is because you are going to be asked to do a lot of things that, especially when you're younger, you feel like your pride is kicking in and you don't think that you should be doing these things, right? You're above these things. You do probably some of these things at home, right? It's chores, and that's what it kind of really feels like. But I think the biggest thing to have is patience, because if you can do that and you get along with your coworkers, it makes the experience so much better, and you really kind of set yourself up in the future to understand kind of how everyone else around you works, and so that you can really get a feel for the landscape of the company that you're at. So, for example, when I was at Walgreens, and I would pull doubles sometimes, and I really threw my hat in the ring if it was, holiday, because I wanted to get that holiday pay. So my family was more than encouraging that I would work on, Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or Easter, whatever it was, because they understood like how important hard work was, and they understood that, money can do a lot for you. So I worked, a lot of the times double shifts, and I'd work a lot of OT just because I really wanted to put in that work ethic, and I had the patience to do it because I knew that what I was doing would pay off. And I got to do a lot of things that, a lot of other normal high school kids couldn't do because, they didn't have a job and they were too lazy to work. And so I think having that patience to understand that even though this 8-hour shift feels just absolutely mind-numbingly boring or whatever it is, at the end of the day, there's an ultimate goal. At the end of the day, I had money in my pocket, and I never had to go to my mom and dad to ask them for anything. At that time, I really wanted a car, and with that comes car insurance, and I wanted my own phone and everything like that. And so being almost independent when you're in high school and you can start doing those things. I mean, obviously, yes, I'm living under my own parents' roof and whatever it is, but having that patience and an understanding that this is kind of how the world works. And, sooner rather than later, I'm not going to be living under my parents' roof, and I have to actually, work hard. And that's super important. And I think that's also very important for, kids these days and this generation. And I feel like I'm sounding like such a boomer or older person or whatever, but really, I think it's true. And I think the best things that I learned in my first job is definitely patience and really working hard. And at the time, yes, it sucks when your friends are going out and they want to do a bunch of stuff and you have to work and blah, blah, blah. And I get that. But let me tell you, the moment you graduate high school, the moment you graduate college or whatever it is, and you're in, working America, and you're married or you have other friends or you're out of the hometown that you've lived in, you're not even going to remember any of those things. You're not even going to think back at any of those times, because not saying that it didn't matter, but at least to me, it didn't feel like it mattered. And I am much happier now, being successful, and I am much happier now with, my wife and my house and where I'm at and stage in my life, because I put in that hard work and patience, all those years ago. So I think the best things, you learn on your first job is also not overreacting and not sweating the small stuff. We had I remember one day we had someone come in. He was delivering milk, and one of the milk jugs fell and slipped right on the lip of the bottom of the cooler, the metal part that keeps the racks from moving in and out, and the whole thing, the milk just everywhere, split it wide open. Milk went all under all the shelving units and all the product and things like that. And that was my entire day. My entire day was cleaning milk out of a cooler. Did it suck? Absolutely. Was it the worst thing ever? You bet. But it taught me that a job has to be done, right? And it also can teach you to, I wanted to get that job done that day because I didn't want the person behind me who's coming in for the night shift or whatever shift to have to do that. I think it is so easy for people nowadays to kind of pass the buck and say, well, it's not my problem, it can be someone else's problem, and find that opportunity to hand it off to someone else, right? But don't do that, right? Please don't do that. And I get it. It's the easy thing to do, but at the end of the day, just be a good human being, right? Be a good human being to your fellow coworker. Life's too short for you to just be, so mean and kind of, manipulative in terms of like, well, it's my shift's over, I'm clocking out and I'm heading out, I think it's very easy for us to do that nowadays, and I don't like that. I think be the person that spends the day cleaning the milk out of the cooler. Just be that person, right? It also goes a long way. If you do the job and you do the job right and you don't let it sit for another person or another day or whatever it is, people will actually notice that. People will actually take note that you are a hard worker, and maybe you'll get kudos. Maybe you'll get a promotion. Maybe you'll get whatever it is, right? A pat on the back. Maybe you'll get nothing, right? A lot of the times, unfortunately, that's the reality. You will get nothing. You won't even get a thank you. You might not even get praise. Whatever. You won't even get a head nod. You'll just, let them know that the job is done, and the job is done. But you need to live with that feeling, because in your heart, and I know it sounds corny, but you did a good thing. And I am a huge believer in what you put out in this world is what you're going to get back. And what you just did there is good karma, right? And although you didn't get recognized for it today, if you keep at it and you keep doing hard work and you keep having patience, I am a firm believer that one day it will pay off. And honestly, I take myself as an example, and there are so many other people out there as an example, and I think there is no easy way when it comes to things like this. So the best thing that I learned on my first job, patience, hard work. All right, third question. Why is finding a job so difficult? Well, that is a very loaded question. So finding a job is really difficult because, one, we have, I think today, more access to jobs than ever. And by that, I don't mean like statistical anything, whatever it is. What I mean by that is there are job applications are now online, right? We have the advent of the internet and technology and job postings to where it is so noisy. No longer do you have to know a guy to know a guy to know a guy to get a job. No longer do you have to actually walk in the door and hand someone your resume and say, I would like a job. That doesn't exist anymore. Finding a job is so difficult because we have sites like Indeed and LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and all these different places, or whatever company that you're trying to get into, they have their own careers page and you have to fill out a job. Now, because of that, they're going to get so many more applications than they ever would if they would have just posted a piece of paper on their window and said, jobs available, right? That doesn't exist anymore. Also, finding a job is really difficult too because I think that people are also pretty lazy, and those job applications that are on company websites, they get very frustrated with having to fill out all the necessary fields and forms and job history and education and things like that. Don't get me wrong, I completely understand. It is very frustrating when, you go to apply for a job and you upload your resume, and it doesn't parse the resume out into the proper fields, and so you have to redo it all manually into the form fields, and you have to put in all your education history and all your employment history and everything like that. And I get it. That is super frustrating. And sometimes they'll ask you for, they'll require you to answer some questions, the common interview questions, or what's your experience like, or tell me a little bit about your work on X platform or Y platform or whatever it is. And so I also don't think that finding a job is so difficult. I think people are just lazy and they don't want to actually have to do the entire work, the whole job application process work. So to answer that question, I think really it's a mixture of noise in terms of just overpopulation and overcrowdedness of applications to an Indeed posting or a LinkedIn posting or even their careers page posting. And then second, I don't necessarily think that it's completely difficult. I think that it's more so people just don't want to have to put in all the information a second time or a third time or whatever it might be. So boom, question 3. Cool. All right, question 4. Why do so many people hate their jobs? Now, I'm not a psych major or anything like that, so I don't necessarily know the answer to this, but I do know a lot of people who constantly complain about their jobs all the time. So my personal belief is the reason why many people hate their jobs, I think it's because misery loves company, right? I think it is so easy to complain about something than it is to give gratitude to something. And the reason why I say that is because never, ever do you see a tweet where someone says, oh my gosh, the new Avengers movie was so great, and it gets millions upon millions of likes and retweets. That's never the case. What you see is someone who says, I didn't think that this part of the Avengers movie was very good because of this and that and whatever. And then that idea starts to cascade and people start poking more holes and that becomes viral and people start talking about it and see how that kind of spider web fans out, right? And so I think it's not necessarily like why people hate their jobs. I think it's very easy for people to complain about things because it gets the most traction, right? If you complain about something and someone else, feels the same way or doesn't feel the same way but wants to engage in a conversation with you, it's very easy to get sucked into that complaining. And I think complaining is probably one of the worst things that a company culture can have. It's extremely difficult to get rid of, and I don't think that you can ever get rid of it. But when you start to have that one person who is complaining constantly, and it's really bringing down a lot of the other people on their team or staff members or whatever it is, it kind of creates that circle or aura of just like tension, and you can kind of feel it, and it gets very uncomfortable. And then all they start doing is complaining about work, and then you find yourself or you find them out about in social events or whatever it is, and they're still complaining about work, and they're not able to kind of check their work at the door, and they bring it into their personal life, and don't get me wrong, there are a lot of jobs out there and a lot of companies out there that maybe it is just toxic in general. Maybe the culture is bad. Maybe there are having problems with upper management, things like that. Like, yes, of course, 100%. That should be talked about and complained and brought to your HR rep and things like that. But I think kind of the more mundane, oh my gosh, I hate my job, it sucks. I think a lot of the complaining about that is, or what I think they're trying to say is, I don't want to do the work. I don't want to be tasked with this thing because it's busy work and it's annoying. And I think that's a lot of the times why people say they quote, hate their jobs. Another side of that, the reason why I think people hate their jobs is because, not saying that they're just unhappy, but they're probably not doing the thing that they wanted to do maybe in the first place. I went to school for broadcast journalism. I went to school for news, and I got a job at a news station, and it was my dream job. I thought this was going to be, the best thing ever. I thought it was going to be perfect. But then when I got there, I found out just how quickly, working at at least this particular news station was just completely and utterly toxic, and it was uncontrollable, and it just was not what I wanted. It kind of blew my mind. I had wanted to be in news, in journalism since I was a sophomore in high school, and then I got there and realized, oh my God, I don't want to do this. And so I found my other outlet. I found a different way out. And now I can say that I don't hate my job. I love my job because I made that decision to get out of something that I didn't like and pursue the thing that I did like. So I think why so many people hate their jobs is because they're not doing the thing that they like. Or maybe they're scared to do the thing that they like. Or maybe they're just uncomfortable with change. I think a lot of the times people also like to kind of stay put in one place because it's comfortable and it's guaranteed. And yes, not everyone has the luxury of even finding that opportunity and finding that guaranteed opportunity, just to even have a job, especially in today's climate. But I think the complaining and people constantly saying how much they hate their job, it all starts with them. It all starts with you, the individual, to make that change. You are the only one that can change it and change your life and change it for yourself. If you're waiting on a handout, it's not going to happen. But at the end of the day, you can still sit there and complain. So that's that. All right. Next question. Has LinkedIn helped you get a job? If so, do you have any tips? Yes, of course LinkedIn has gotten me a job. It is probably one of the best places for you to ever put your information on what you've done historically for your experience and education on. It's a no-brainer. LinkedIn, I don't know about you, but every time that I have applied for a job and I've gotten through the first or second round interview, I seem to have a bunch of other people from the company that I'm interviewing for happen to take a look at my LinkedIn profile because I'm sure they wanted to know, who I am, where am I from, what experience do I have, what's my education like, what am I saying, what do I talk about? And it's huge, and it gives them an idea kind of who I am. It's the classic judging a book by its cover, and honestly, that's kind of what the gambit is here. The whole reason why you have a LinkedIn profile and the whole reason why people have social media accounts in the first place is because you want to project who you are. Right? Everyone says all the time that, don't believe everything that you see on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, because, those are just photos and there's real lives behind those photos. And so it's kind of the same idea in terms of LinkedIn, right? There's a lot more to you and who you are than what those words say about what you've done in your, achievements and your experience, right? You can dive a lot deeper into those types of things, but that's just kind of what the initial judging a book by its cover is. That's the whole thing that LinkedIn can provide, is that kind of brief snapshot of who you are and what you've done so that they can make an informed decision on, do they want to move forward with you? So has LinkedIn helped me get a job? Absolutely. And if so, do I have any tips? Tips are really dive deep into your LinkedIn. Don't half but any of this. Do it right. Take the time, right? It is going, if you want a job, if you really, really want a job, what you need to do is actually take the time to tell your story. You got to take the time to actually build out your LinkedIn. You just got to do it. Really put in your experience. Really bullet point it out. Really give yourself a good executive summary. Think about it. Right? Think about all your soft skills that or your hard skills, whatever it is, anything, achievements, certifications, whatever it might be. You think about it and you need to really put that down into your profile. And you need to keep up with your profile too. If you are achieving things as you are working, add that in. Add that in. It's absolutely huge, right? Because people can visit you and revisit you and they can always look at you for other positions in the future. A lot of the times HR does hold on to applications or resumes or individuals that they feel that they could be a good asset to the company, and maybe this time around you didn't get the job. But who knows? It might just happen, So, all right. Next question. What is the most bizarre job interview you have ever been to? So, the most bizarre job interview that I've ever been to was, it was for an ad agency, and it was extremely strange. So, and this leads right into the next question too, which is what was the shortest interview you've ever had that led to a job offer? So, I'm going to kind of go back to back here in terms of the question. So, the most bizarre job interview that I've ever had was, it was for an ad agency, and I got the call from the recruiter, and I spoke with him. He set the interview up for, I think, like, that very next day. And I didn't know that day for the two, and I'm going to put this in quotes, hiring managers, that it was going to be like a multiple interview a day for them. So it was very much like, I go in, it was an hour for me, then right after I ended, the next person came in, interviewed for an hour, and that was it. And they did that all day. And so the most bizarre job interview that I had was, I go in, and mine was, I think mine had to have been later on that day, because it just seemed like they were not engaged. They were not listening. They could not care less about anything that I was saying. They looked incredibly glossy-eyed. They were staring out the glass panes behind me, and it just did not feel or seem right. It was just, honestly, it was actually just quite frustrating too, to be a part of, because I'm trying to convey, what I've done, my experience, everything, X, Y, Z. And it just seemed like they could not be bothered with anything that I was saying. So the most bizarre job interview I had was an interview to where they didn't even listen to anything that I was saying. And, I'm not saying what I was saying was not uninteresting. I mean, they asked me the questions, but then I would answer the questions and they would not even kind of engage. So that's kind of the most bizarre job interview I've ever been to. I mean, also, I always hate those questions in those job interviews where it's like, what's your, if you had one ice cream flavor to describe you, what would it be? And it's like, I hate that question, because that's a terrible question to ask somebody, because you are asking them to project who they are based off of an ice cream flavor that they are going to say. So if they say something like vanilla, they're going to be like, oh, I'm plain and boring. And it's like, well, do you really want that person to work for you if they, that's all they can come up with? That's a terrible question to ask, and that's a terrible thing to judge a person on based off of an ice cream flavor. That doesn't make any sense to me, right? Then you get people who are going to say things like Rocky Road because I've been through it all, and da-da-da-da. It's like, okay, great. Or they're going to be like mint chocolate chip because I like mint. And it's like, that's where we're at now in terms of job interview questions. Like, we're asking people about ice cream flavors. Come on. Let's cut that out. Let's be professional here. Right? Let's actually be big boys and big girls. And let's actually not ask someone what the hell their ice cream flavor would be to describe them. Right? I just think that's absolutely stupid. Anyways, that was the most bizarre job interview I've ever been to. The second question, or second part to that was, what was the shortest interview you've ever had that led to a job offer? So surprisingly, after that interview, I got the call later that day that they were going to offer me the job. And that was concerning, to say the least, because I had the initial phone screen interview, which, I really dived into a lot of my experience in my past and everything like that. And then I interviewed in front of two people that I felt didn't really even pay attention to me. And then they ended up offering me the job later on. So that was pretty strange. And I didn't really like that. So, and that's another thing too, I think kind of as good advice to anyone out there, prospecting and things like that. Don't be surprised if you have to do 3, 4, even 5 interviews for a company. I think having that phone screening interview and then interview, like the actual in-person interview and then getting the job, I actually think that is the outlier. Honestly, I think that is the actual non-norm. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like nowadays companies, especially like corporate America companies and things like that, they're really trying to find, good fits and good hires, and they really want to make the person that's at a job last. I feel like now more than ever, I feel like there are people out there who can job hop and find other opportunities, out in the world. And so having someone actually be there for the long haul and have some longevity to their career, that's kind of rare to find. So in terms of short interviews, I would kind of find it a little strange if, you just had that one phone call and you just had that one actual phone interview, in-person interview. So, my advice, if that does happen and you do get the job offer, I think, you should probably do a little more research on the company. I think you should definitely do some more digging, maybe on that, on the HR rep or the recruiter who's calling you, maybe give them a call back and, kind of ask them what's going on. What's the culture like? How are people feeling? What's the upward mobility? Are there chances to move up and things like that? Those are absolutely huge to understand, because if you go to somewhere that's like an ad agency where, the moniker for them is, work hard, play hard, and working hard is actually, 6 to 8, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and, you have no social life or you have no free time or whatever it is. And, I'm not talking about, when I used to work at Walgreens to where, you pull a double shift because, that's a retail job and you need the money because you're a kid. But, if you're a grown adult and you're pulling those shifts and you're not making any extra money in your salary, you got to really start thinking to yourself, what's the upward mobility like here? Is there chances for me to actually be successful and move up? Or am I kind of at a dead end and am I being, kind of taken advantage of because, you have nothing else? So definitely kind of be cautious when you have kind of those short interviews that lead to a job offer. So boom. Okay. Next question. Oh, what is the best job search site? So like I said kind of earlier at the top, the best job search site I truly believe is Indeed and LinkedIn. Indeed has this new feature now to where you can kind of easy apply. I think LinkedIn has the exact same feature. So a lot of the times when posters, put up their job listings or whatever it is, or their openings, you can easy apply, which is they take the, existing information that's off of your LinkedIn profile, and they use it to actually fill out the form within the site itself. So they use it to fill it out with the job application within Indeed or within LinkedIn, so that you don't have to be redirected. You don't have to go to their actual company site and fill it out on their careers page and things like that. So those two are absolutely huge because they've added that, kind of feature, the easy apply feature, which is really, really important. So with that, after you apply, you can actually communicate with the poster within the actual chat windows within Indeed or LinkedIn. So that's also very nice. It's a really good feature because it allows them to have a conversation quickly, right? So if you apply to that job, they like you, everything matches, you're a good fit. That recruiter, that poster, they can reach out to you right there within a chat window on Indeed, on LinkedIn, and say, hey, Austin, would you want to schedule a phone interview? What times are you available? Boom. All set. You locked it down. You nailed it already. So I think the best job search sites are LinkedIn and Indeed. I think it's almost untouchable. Anything else that's out there, because they also kind of like aggregate a lot of jobs as well. So a lot of the times you'll find that the same jobs that are on LinkedIn are on Indeed and vice versa, just because those two sites are attracting the most individuals. And LinkedIn has kind of its own built-in business network, and while Indeed is not necessarily that, Indeed's more really focused on the job search and the job hunt, and LinkedIn is more so kind of like for business professionals. So having those two things is a great aid. And really, when you do your Indeed, make sure that your profile just on Indeed in general is really fleshed out. Make sure that you have your notifications on. Make sure that when you fill out that Indeed profile that you are receiving job alerts, right? A lot of the times, let also the jobs come to you. If you set up job alerts and you're looking at something specific and you want to work in a certain zip code near your house, you want to work in downtown, or you want to work for a certain industry or a company or make a certain amount of money, whatever it is, you can set up job alerts when these things come around. Boom, you can be the first one to apply because you just got notified that X company, that's in downtown that offers X amount of money, for this position that you are qualified for, just had an opening. Be the first one to the punch. So I think that's absolutely crucial, and set up job alerts. Set up job alerts for both LinkedIn and Indeed. I think those two are the absolute best sites, and I think that you can't go wrong with using any of them. So that's that. Cool. Next one. What is the coolest perk of any job you've had? That is also a loaded question because, as an adult, the best perk that you could have in a job, obviously, benefits, 401k, dental, things like that, right? I get it. Those are kind of the mainstays. Money is always good. A percent match on your retirement is also extremely huge, for sure. I get that. Those are all great perks, stock options and all that kinds of stuff, right? But I think what the question's really asking is perk in terms of, what did you get, out of it? So I think one thing that's really cool that I used to work for a company at was they had all the snacks for free, and they had sodas for free, and the snacks weren't just like, peanut butter crackers. I mean, we're talking like really good snacks, and it was awesome, right? And you think to yourself, wow, this is fantastic. I have unlimited amount of fruit and tea and Rice Krispie treats and all these types of things, and it's really, really cool, right? But then you start to think, man, they are spending a lot of money on snacks. They are spending a lot of money on food and vendors and having lunch prepared for you once a week or whatever it is. And yeah, totally, I get it. That is such a cool perk. But to me, what's even cooler is if I was to make a little bit more money, nix all the snacks, nix all of that. I don't care about any of that. I would rather take the little bit of extra money, buy my own groceries, make my own food, bring my own snacks, right? And then I can live a little bit more comfortably. I can have a little more money in my pocket to do things that I want to do. I feel like my salary is being tempered because you have to have enough budget to bring in all these amenities for your employees. And I get it. That's a good way of getting employee happiness. That's a good way of increasing culture. That's a good way of, really bringing people together and having camaraderie and saying, look at us. We are a really cool company and we give our employees snacks. I totally get that. I'm not knocking that at all. But it came to a point, especially in my life, to where I'm looking at that and I'm like, man, my same title versus the next guy at a different company, he's making $5,000 more than me. He's making $10,000 more than me, $15,000 more than me. What the hell am I doing wrong? I shouldn't be here. I should be somewhere else, where he doesn't get snacks and I'm getting snacks. I don't want snacks. I want $15,000 more. I want $10,000. I want $5,000 more. So I think kind of the coolest perk, while it is cool, don't get me wrong, it's cool to get all the snacks. I love snacks. Who doesn't like snacks? But at the end of the day, I would love to have that couple $100 extra in my paycheck every single 2 weeks or every single week or every single month or 1st and 15th, whatever it is, whatever your paycheck is, rather than going into work and sometimes I have a free cup of tea and an apple and sometimes I have a bag of Doritos. What are we talking here? That's $1 for a bag of Doritos, and my pay is significantly less than the other person in the same industry as me, but just at a different company. So that's another thing too. I'd also say kind of to look out for is the perks, and when they start selling you on company culture of having all the lunch paid, Friday pizza and happy hour things. Like I get that. That's totally cool. I am all for that stuff, but when it becomes almost like so pushed into your face as like, look at us, look at us, look at us, we're such a cool company, then it's like, for me, that's like red flag, red flag, red flag. So not to always be the Debbie Downer on everything, but I feel like the coolest perk sometimes can say a lot more about the company than you think. And I think more so it's about reading, between the lines. So, that's my thought on it. Cool. So the last question that I want to get to, and this one's kind of a heavy one, is how do you know when it's time to leave your current company and move on? So I want to get a little serious here, because this one's actually very, very important. And the reason why I say that is because you have to know it for yourself. You have to constantly check in with yourself, and you need to realize and recognize what you want. My dad used to always say to me, son, every couple of years I do a 5-year check-in, and I say to myself, okay, here I am at X amount of years that I've worked at this company. What do I want out of the next 5? What do I want out of the next 3? What do I want out of the next 1? And he marks himself, he benchmarks himself, and he works towards the things that he wants. If the things that he wants doesn't align, he makes a change. So with that, if he sees himself in 5 years being promoted to whatever it is, and he's been at the same place for the past 5 years, what needs to change? What does he need to do different so he can hit that mark, right? So I think to answer this question, how do you know when it's time to leave your current company and move on? You got to set yourself some goals, right? You got to feel it within. Just literally check in with yourself. Are you happy with the amount of money that you're making? I know everybody's not happy with the amount of money that they're making, but think about your life. Are you able to pay your bills? Are you able to have a good home? Are you able to support your family? Are you able to drive, a working car, get from A to B? Are you able to buy food, groceries, and have a personal life and enjoy the things that you want to enjoy? Have the items that you want to have, right? Without being crippled by debt and things like that, right? Check in with yourself. Find out what you think is most important to you. If you want to have boatloads of money and you want to, flaunt it and go all over the place and things like that, but you are working a dead-end job, whatever it is, okay, figure out how you can get there, right? That's never unobtainable for anybody. I truly believe that, right? With enough hard work and dedication and really structuring what you want out of life, you can do it. You can 100% do it. You just have to work hard at that. So benchmark yourself, goal set yourself. Maybe it's time for a career change. Maybe it's time you go back to school, right? There are a lot of different things that you can do, and check in with yourself and say whether or not necessarily if you're happy or not, but if what you are currently doing aligns with where you want to be. So, how do you know when it's time to leave your current company and move on? For me, it's about the moments in life that I'm experiencing. And that was very confusing, but the way I meant that is, if you're getting married, or you're planning to have a kid, or you want to move, into a bigger home, or you're dreaming about a bigger home, or wanting to get a nicer car, or whatever it is, right? For me, I want some of those things. I wanted certain things. I have a wife now. We're thinking about having children. We want to have a dog, whatever it is. Those types of things. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what does that look like? I want to be there for my child. I want to be there for my wife. I want to enjoy nice things, and I want to go do nice things. I want to treat her to nice things. So I'm going to look for a job, and I'm going to work so hard at that, or I am going to stay at my current job, and I'm going to work toward that promotion, right? Get there. How far is that off? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, right? Talk to your boss. Be open. Have a transparent conversation. Trust me, it is scary. I know that it's scary to have that conversation with your boss. But you know what it shows, though? And that's the thing that I've actually thought about and had to overcome myself. When you have a conversation with your boss and you say, hey, this is what I want. I want to make X amount and this is how I want to get there. That shows that you actually care about yourself. You care about the company. And you're telling them that you want to work hard to get there. Obviously, they're not going to just be like, yep, you got it. You're completely right. We're going to give it to you right now. No. They need to see some sort of return on investment, right? If they're going to say to you, Austin, we are going to give you X amount of money in 2 years, but you got to do this. You got to change this. You got to work hard at this, right? Do it. Make that change. Have that conversation with your boss, with your leader. It doesn't matter, because when they look at you, they will see that someone is actually trying and not just, handing in B work, B plus work, right? C work. You're going above and beyond because you have a goal for yourself. And I think, honestly, that is the biggest thing. You have to check in with yourself. Look at yourself and say, this is what I want. And go after it. It might sound stupid. People, they have vision boards. Because they want things so bad, they're visualizing it. They put it up on this board. Sports car, nice house, whatever it is, right? They put it on a vision board and they believe it. They believe that they will get there. You can get there. You can get there. You just got to check in with yourself. You got to look at yourself and say, what am I doing? What is my day-to-day like? How can I improve on it? How can I compound and make it better and get this exponential growth? So how do you know when it's time to leave your current company and move on? You know when it's time when you want a change, when you want something different, when you have goals and you're not hitting them currently. When you are not hitting your current goals, that's when you need to look at yourself in the mirror and you need to say to yourself, okay, it's time for me to straighten up. It's time for me to do something different, and it's time for me that I do something, right? Do something. I find it's very easy for a lot of people, and especially myself, I find it very, 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 very easy to be very complacent, to be plateaued, to just be okay with the way things are. But there are times where I have to check myself. I gotta look at myself and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is too easy. You've gotten too comfortable. You need to straighten up. And that's why I'm doing this podcast too. It's for that reason alone. It's because the things that I've done in my life and the things that I've thought about and I've changed and I've checked in with myself to get to where I'm at, I want to tell people to do that as well. I want to be kind of that voice of reason. I want to be able to push someone and say, do it. Do it. Talk to your boss. Check in with yourself. Make a vision board. Do these things. It is so huge. And you know what it is too? It's working towards something obtainable. It's working towards something that you can actually visualize and see and make come true. You know, I think of it as like you just planned a vacation for a year from now, right? The anticipation of getting there, right? The anticipation of day after day, weekend after weekend, holiday after holiday to get to that beautiful, amazing, awesome, spectacular vacation that you've planned for so long, and now it's finally here and you did it, right? How excited are you to get on that plane or get in that car and go and do it, right? How excited are you to do that? And because you got there, it's the best experience ever. You're relaxed, you're chill, you calm down, right? You're able to unwind, kick your feet up, enjoy a Mai Tai, whatever it is, right? Same situation here. How do you know when it's time to leave your current company and move on? It's when you want something more. It's when you want something greater than what you have now. And all it is just checking in with yourself. So that's the last I'm going to say on that. But thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you to anyone who just kind of comes across this and actually, gives this a shot and listens all the way through. I know I'm brand new and I know I'm just starting, but I really just want to thank anybody out there who actually just even took 30 seconds or whatever it is to kind of listen to this. So I'm just here to help. If this goes nowhere, it goes nowhere. But I've learned a lot through my experiences. I've learned a lot through everything that I've done throughout my entire life. And I just want to be able to I'm not trying to say give back, but I just want to help. That's all it is I just want to help. And I want to just offer a word of advice. And if I can help somebody out there, one person out there, just one individual out there, I will feel that I made at least some sort of mark on this world. So I really appreciate anybody who listened to this. Please, subscribe to my podcast, check out the YouTube channel, go to my website. All of it's, masteringtheinterviewpod.com. My Instagram is @masteringthepod. Sorry, I don't even know my own social handles. It's Mastering the Interview Pod, at Mastering the Interview Pod. Check me out on Twitter. Check me out on my Facebook group, my YouTube channel, everything like that. I'm sure you'll be able to find it all linked through my website. So thank you very much. Please like and subscribe to the podcast if you enjoyed kind of what I talked about. There's going to be a lot more like this. I'm going to put out new content every single week. So really appreciate to anybody who listened to this. And with that, I will cut this off. And I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much.